All right, let's see. We should be live now. Yeah, let me know, guys. I'm recording this episode of the podcast live, and haven't done a live in a while on YouTube. So just want to make sure this is working. If you're watching this right now and you can hear me and the audio sounds good, just let me know in chat, please. Give me a thumbs up or just say sounds good. Then I'll know that I should continue and actually record it this way. I want to make sure I'm getting good quality here so we can post this out on the podcast feed. And let's see, we have Kevin here and we have Marion, and it does look like it is coming through. So awesome, we can get started. So just quick heads up, guys. I was here in the studio and I was about to record a podcast. So I figured what I would do is literally just record it live. That way, if anyone has any questions as I'm going through this, I can post the the Q&A at the end. I can answer any questions you guys have. But first, I'll just record this podcast. Maybe it's like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, something like that. And then again, if you have any questions as I'm going through this, put them up there in the chat. I could see that. And I see Tammy, Joel, and Steven says sounds good. So awesome. And yeah, what I'll do is after I go through the podcast, I will go through the questions and try to answer as many as I can. So with that being said, we are good to start. I'm just going to put a note. I made a note on the screen. Where is it? Okay, cool. You should see that now. Currently recording an episode of the podcast. Feel free to post any questions in the chat and I'll answer them at the end. Awesome. So I'll leave that up as we go through it. And then again, questions at the end. And what is up, Hatham? Cool. So I think, yeah, it's recording. We're good to go. Awesome. All right. Hello, everybody. Anton Kraly here, and welcome to another episode of the e-commerce lifestyle podcast. This is the show designed to help e-commerce store owners to increase their revenue, automate their operations, and become the authority in their niche. If you're not yet subscribed to the podcast, just go to whatever podcast player you use, search for e-commerce lifestyle, look for my face, and you'll see the previous, I think, 300 something episodes there now. So if you haven't listened to them as well, go back, binge listen. Lots of valuable information in there. Now, what we want to do in today's episode is talk about two things that are on the top of a lot of dropshippers' minds right now. And that is, first of all, supply chain issues. No news there if you are a dropshipper. And then also inflation and how rising costs really across the board of pretty much everything affect our money, because that is what we care about when we're business owners and we are reliant on the income and the revenue that we generate. Because obviously if costs go up, but our profits don't go up, there is an issue, right? So I want to talk about how to address those two things. Also, just want to make a quick note before I get into this. If you are subscribed to the YouTube channel, just at youtube.com/dropshiplifestyle, I posted a video on this topic. I believe at the time I'm recording this, it was a week ago. And I cover this in that video. So if you've seen that already, you'll definitely notice some overlap here. But the reason I wanted to do this as a separate podcast is because this is a podcast, I kind of can go deeper into things. I feel like I have more time to talk and explain things. So even if you saw that one, I would recommend listening to this anyway, because again, there should be some extra things that I possibly didn't share in that video from last week. Okay, so let's start off on the supply chain side of things, right? What is this and how is this affecting business? And when it comes to dropshipping, it's affecting a lot more than that, but we're dropshippers, so let's talk about that. So what has been happening now for timelines are hard here. Let's say like the last 3 to 5 months is supply chain issues have become a thing again. Now they were a thing when COVID was first here, going back years now, but we basically got through the hardest part of it, which was maybe a quarter to 2 quarters, and then things leveled out. But then COVID reemerged in China in a big way. And because it did, that meant a lot of factories are closed again, which meant less products getting on ships, which meant less products in US warehouses, which means basically there's less product to actually sell. There's less product in the economy. And this is an issue specifically, or especially, I would say, if you work for a limited number of brands, or if you sell for a limited number of brands, because this has always been the case when it comes to the true value, right? The true value of our businesses, our dropship stores, it's made up of a lot of things. Obviously, the amount and the consistency of the net profit is a big piece of valuation. But another big thing is, what are the breaking points, right? What are the things that could happen in the business that can make it suddenly much less valuable, right? What's the risk? That's another way to say it. The chances that a store that's consistently running along, generating awesome profits and awesome revenue and awesome profits, what are the chances that that dries up? Now, one of the things that would make it dry up is if you were too reliant on one single source. Now, this can mean a couple different things. This could mean if you had a store and it was reliant on one source of traffic. So let's just say organic, right? You only got free traffic from Google and that made up all of your sales. Okay, awesome, right? You're making money, it's not costing you money, good for you. But from somebody that's valuing your business on the other end, to them, that's like, well, what happens if Google changes their algorithm like they do all the time and that free traffic dries up? Well, that's a really risky investment. That's a really risky value on your end as the business owner, because if things stop working, then your business is no longer valuable. Now, another thing that goes into the risk profile of a business is how many different products you sell and how many different brands you sell for. Because let's just say, hypothetically, if anyone's seeing this as the video version that I'm recording, behind me, I have 2 leather chairs, right? And let's say those 2 leather chairs were the only products that I sold, right? It's one product. I had one SKU in my store and it was a great product. Everybody loved it. The leather is super soft. The brass little knobs look awesome. It's comfortable, great price. And I sold that product like crazy. Well, what would happen if that supplier no longer had inventory? Or what would happen if that supplier went out of business? Well, for me as the business owner that sold them, if that was my sole thing that I made money on, when that goes, then I go, right? Then I can't do anything. I'm basically, I'm stuck until they figure it out. So this is true, and it has been true since businesses were valued. And you'll notice this if you ever go to sell your store, which a lot of Dropship Lifestyle members do, because why not? It's a big payday and you can always build more. But this is something now that people are realizing, not just because they work with a limited number of suppliers and they're going to sell their stores and they're seeing valuation is determined also by risk, but they're also noticing it because maybe they only sell for 1 or 2 or 3 brands, and maybe 2 out of those 3 are dealing with their best selling SKUs not being available. What does that mean to the business owner? Again, less products to sell, lower revenue, lower valuation of the business because it's more risky because you're limiting yourself to only this limited number of products. Now, the way this affects and ties into the first thing I want to talk about, which is supply chain, is that when you're building your business, this is something you should consider from day one. But if you haven't considered yet, I would highly encourage you to do starting today as a way to overcome this supply chain crisis that a lot of brands and a lot of industries are dealing with. And that is diversifying the amount of brands you sell for and the amount of products you list. So let's go back to the example I gave at the start of this episode, which was those brown leather chairs. Now, if I sold them and I had my one supplier, and again, my business was just selling them like crazy, making a ton of money, well, what I would do and what I would encourage you to do is go out there and use the methods I teach in the Dropship Blueprint, find your future competitors, go to trade show sites like tsnn.com, look for furniture trade shows, and try to find as many related products as you can. So I'm not saying if I had that brown leather chair store, I would start selling stand-up desks on it or anything like that, but I would try to find more products that are similar or comparable to those chairs, and I would list them as well, ideally from as many different high-quality brands as I could find. That's what I would encourage you to do as well. And let's just say you bumped up your store that was selling for 3 different brands, and now you start selling for 20 different brands. Will there still be supply chain issues? Is it still real? Yeah, of course it is, but because you have this really wide spectrum and wide range of brands you sell for, well, guess what? Now you have some protection. Now that risk profile of your business is lowered because you have other things to sell. And now the value of your business, whether you want to sell it or not, is higher, right? It's more valuable because there's less risk involved. So if anyone is listening to this right now and you're not already doing that, my advice is do that again, starting today. If you've built your store, let's just say, you're up and running already and you started, 3 years ago. And back when you first started, you went out there, maybe you even followed what I teach at Dropship Lifestyle, and you found every possible brand in your niche and you reached out to all of them. You got your approvals, you got your rejections. And since then you've kind of been coasting on what you have. Today, when you stop this episode, go back out, do your research again, because I guarantee you that new brands have popped up. And there's also brands that might have rejected you back, a couple of years ago when you first started that will now approve you because you have more of a history in your business because you've been established longer. So step 1 in overcoming supply chain obstacles as a business owner is increase your product offerings. Again, not by broadening your niche, but by finding more suppliers and by reaching out to suppliers who have possibly rejected you in the past. Build up your product offering. There is less that you have to rely on, right? It's more sustainable even if there are supply chain issues with a certain percentage of your suppliers. Now, a couple more things that I want to hit on that will hopefully make sense to you. Because if you're thinking, okay, Anton, you just gave that example of those chairs. And if those are your best sellers and now you add on 100 other different types of brown leather chairs, well, what happens if that best-selling one does go out of stock? What happens if that supplier is the one that is really struggling with supply chain and not being able to predictably have inventory in stock? Well, a few things that we do that I would encourage you to do as well. First off is try to get ahead of this and notice it in advance. So every supplier is different. But what we like to do is have inventory sheets sent to us weekly, ideally every week, that show every SKU from, let's just say, supplier ABC, that show how many are in stock, how many are coming into stock, right? So possibly that are on the water already, and the ETA for when those will be available to ship. Because what you want to do in advance, if you notice that your best sellers are running low, couple things. One of them is if you're already established and you have basically a bankroll that you've built by running your store for a certain amount of time, you've been saving money, you have basically cash. What you want to do then is reach out to, in this case, that leather chair supplier and say, hey, supplier, I see you only have 100 of these left, and I see you have 1,000 more coming in, but that's not for a few months. We typically sell 50 of these every month. I would like to pre-purchase what you have left, right? I would like to reserve that inventory of the 50 or 100 pieces that are currently in your warehouse. Now, to do this, it requires a couple things. One is an actual relationship with that brand. So you've been selling for them ideally consistently over an extended period of time. So they'll want to be willing to do this for you. And typically, even when you have that relationship, there is a financial transaction involved, right? So maybe that is you give them a 20% deposit on the 50 units in their warehouse. Maybe that's you go as high as a 50% deposit on the units in their warehouse. But the only time you would do this, and I want to be crystal clear on this, so somebody listening to this right now that has a bankroll already, but that's not established, doesn't just start throwing money around and advance the suppliers. You only want to do that when your business is established, when you have that cash, when you know what you can sell based on previous data. That's when it makes sense to go that deposit route. The suppliers, I should say, still keep those products in stock in their warehouse. They still drop ship them for you, but you've secured that inventory as your own, so you can continue to sell. Now, what happens if either you do that or you can't do that because the supplier says no? And well, let's say you do that and you sell through that inventory and the rest is back ordered for 3 months. Or the supplier simply says no and you just don't have products to sell, right? Your best selling product is no longer in stock. Couple things you can do to deal with this and to make the most out of it, and I'll just tell you exactly what we do. The first thing is if that product is back ordered and there is no clear ETA, if the supplier can't basically guarantee you and say, you know what, here, who's in chat? Tammy. You know what, Tammy, we are gonna have these, they're on the ocean right now, they're going to be in our warehouse on June 1st. And if they can't tell you that and they're like, well, we ordered them, but we're not sure, stop selling them, okay? Because you don't want to get in a situation where you pre-sell a bunch of stuff and your supplier says, we think we might have them June 15th, but then on June 15th, the supplier tells you, oh, guess what? Now it's August 1st. Because if you tell all the people that are basically reserving them or pre-ordering them on your store that they're going to be in stock this day, and then it's pushed out 2 months, you're going to have a lot of unhappy customers. And if you've ever been on one of my webinars, happy customers are the key to long-term success. You're going to have a lot of unhappy customers, probably a lot of refunds. You're going to have possibly bad reviews. So if the ETA isn't clear, do not pre-sell the products. Now, if it's clear and the supplier says, Anton, Tammy, who's in chat, Joel, Steven, Marion, Kevin, these products, this is the date, this is when they're gonna be here. If that date is within a month or so, that's typically as far as out as we wanna go. What we will do is pre-sell them and we'll add a note on our product pages on Shopify right next to the add to cart button that says this product is currently back ordered and the ETA for shipment is whatever that is. Again, June 1st, June 15th, whatever that is, we'll put it there so that when the customer purchases it, they know it's not going to ship out in 2 days. Now, on top of that, when we take these pre-orders, which you very well might want to do, not only having that note there, but the step above and beyond that we do and that I would encourage you to do is when those orders come through, manually email those people that are purchasing them and say, hi, John, I saw you just ordered 2 brown leather chairs. We do have this note on the product page that says the ETA is June 1st. Just wanted to confirm with you that you understand that and that you're aware these aren't going to ship out for 2 weeks, whatever that is, right? Just so there's not that buyer's remorse coupled with feeling like you're trying to pull one over on the customer and delay a transaction that really isn't delayed. So update the product page and manually email the customer after the orders come through. Do those 2 things, keep your customers happy, keep your business healthy, have those happy customers for the long-term success. Now, in the situation that the supplier tells you, listen, I don't know. I can't give you an ETA. We have no idea when these things are going to be back. All the factories are closed. Your guess is as good as mine. What you should do in that situation is on those product pages, stop selling it. So mark it as inventory being zero. You can use apps that allow customers to request to be notified when it's back in stock. So first off, do that. Second thing you should do is turn off all of your paid traffic to that specific product page. So if you have your Google Shopping campaigns set up the way I teach in the Dropship Blueprint, you can either just set your default cost per click for those products at zero, so 0.00, or you can just remove them from your CSV that's being sent to Google Merchant Center so you're not getting any money wasted on products you can't sell. Now, on top of that, you still will get traffic to those pages, whether it's people that just search organically and find you that way, or whether it's people that have been to your store before and they're coming back. People still will land there. So what you want to do is a couple things. First off is give them that option, again, where they can be notified when it's back. There's apps for that in the Shopify App Store. And the other thing you want to do is link to comparable products. This is why when I mentioned earlier that it makes sense to have many products from many suppliers within your niche, let's just say that product is out of stock with no ETA. What I would do is say, this product is out of stock. We currently don't have an ETA. You can request to be notified when it's back. Or if you need something now, check out product 1, 2, 3 from supplier A. Check out product 4, 5, 6 from supplier B. Check out, product 5 from supplier F, whatever it is, and list them there. So, and then say, these products are in stock and can ship within 48 hours so that people that need something quick can buy them. That way, we're making the most out of that free or referral traffic that's going to those product pages, but we're not wasting money in ad spend. And it's just the best way you can deal with supply chain issues. Okay. So those are the things that we're doing. And that's what I encourage you to do if you haven't done them already and you're running a dropshipping store. Now, if you're listening to this and you don't even have a store yet, right? You're just thinking, Anton, I listened to the podcast. I do want to build a store, but supply chain issues are worrisome. What should I do? Should I wait until things, smooth over? No, you shouldn't wait. What you should do is what I've done and what I've taught since Dropship Lifestyle started in 2013, which is what I just mentioned, get approved for as many brands as you can get approved with. Because let's just say you find 20 possible brands to sell for within your chosen niche. Maybe you hear back from all of them and maybe 15 of them approve you from the beginning. Maybe out of those 15, 4 of them are really struggling with supply chain. Okay, well now you still have 11 brands that you can actively sell for now, and you have 4 that you can start promoting once the supply chain things smooth over. So this isn't like a death sentence for business or anything like that. It's not like, oh no, now, we're beholden to wait until China changes their zero COVID policy or anything like that. It's simply, we do what we can with what we have. Love that quote, by the way, from Theodore Roosevelt. It says, do what you can with what you have where you are. And that's what we've always done. And that's what you can do now with the issues in the world of supply chain. Okay. So that covers the first portion of what I wanted to share in this podcast. Before we move into the second part, which is inflation, I'll just say for anyone out there listening to this, if you don't have a store yet, you want to get started and you want a free training from me, plus a special offer to enroll in my coaching program, the Dropship Blueprint, you can go to dropshipwebinar.com. And that's where I have about a 3-hour free training plus that special offer. Again, dropshipwebinar.com, perfect place to get started on your journey or to figure out how to make things work if you've been running a business and it's simply not profitable. Okay, let's go into the second part of this episode. Again, the second current reality of not just drop shipping, but the world right now. Of course, we'll tie it into drop shipping because that's what we do. But this is inflation, right? It's, if you see any news, I try to myself not look at news, and I still hear this everywhere about how bad or how high inflation is right now in the US. And I know it's not just a US problem, but it's real, right? Things cost more than they did 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago. Things are more money, whether that be products, whether that be advertising, obviously gas, which leads to more expensive costs across the board because products have to be shipped typically from an overseas factory to a US warehouse, then from a US warehouse to a customer. So costs are simply more money. So share a couple things here with what we're currently doing, what you can do, and what I recommend going forward. So first thing I'll say is for most of the brands we sell for, we haven't really seen inflation hit the product costs yet, right? Suppliers, for the most part, not every case, but for the most part, haven't changed their pricing. And I actually want them to, right? I want this to happen sooner rather than later. And the reason I do is, it's pretty simple. And if anyone watches the video of this, I'll share it on my screen right now on my iPad. But typically the way that we will mark up products is when we get approved to sell for a supplier, we will get our price list that has our MAP price. And let's just do wholesale first. We have our wholesale price, and let's just say wholesale for a product, maybe one of those brown leather chairs, was $500. Then we have our MAP price, minimum advertised price, and that is what we sell to customers for. Typically, that's at least 2x wholesale. So if the product was wholesale price of $500, then MAP, if it was 2x, would be $1,000, meaning in this case, we would sell those leather chairs for $1,000, right? Simple math. Now, the thing is, the spread here is our best case scenario, right? In this case, $500, what we could make. But obviously we have our expenses like I was just talking about. We have the cost of ads, so I'll just put ads. We have the shipping cost because we offer free shipping, meaning we pay for it. Of course, we have merchant fees. Those haven't changed. There's been no inflation there, but we have those fees. So out of our best case scenario, our expenses come out of that. And then when all is said and done, we're left with our true net profit, right? The money we get to keep. Now, because a lot of the costs that we have to pay are going up, again, like shipping and like ads, that means that's coming out of that same number. Now, what I'm waiting for, again, to happen is because products are actually getting more expensive, like raw materials to manufacture products. So again, the metal, the steel frames of those leather chairs, for example, the actual leather, the brass rivets, right? Those costs are all going up too. So what I'm waiting for is for suppliers to actually raise the prices, right? Where the wholesale cost, instead of being 500, is now 600, and where MAP is still equal to, of course, 2x wholesale, becomes 1200, because then everybody, meaning us and our competition, is selling for 1200, which means now our starting point would be $600, and then our higher costs come out of that, and we have more money to basically pay for higher costs, which will then allow us to make good profits, right? The 30% that we strive for. So that is where I do think everything's going. Again, simply because raw materials are going up as well. So I think this will be the case coming within the next year. Again, it started with some suppliers already, but it's on the way. And what I'll say about this is the good news is it's not like you might be thinking, well, Anton, if I used to sell a chair for $1,000 and now I sell it for $1,200, isn't that bad? Like, isn't that more for the consumer? Will people still buy? What I'll say to that is it's not good, right? It's not good for anybody. It's not good for the consumer, but it's reality. That's what happens when inflation is insane. It's that everything is more expensive. And again, because we sell for MAP suppliers, minimum advertised price suppliers, if they want that thing, that's the price, right? It doesn't matter. It's not like we raised our price. Let me move this over. It's not like we raised our price and that's what we sell it for and everyone sells it for $1,000 still. It's that this is the new price. This is the reality. Just like when you go to a grocery store now and you buy, I have no idea what things cost, but you buy, ground beef, it costs 20% more. It's not like the grocery store you go to wants to make 20% more. It's like, that's the new price. So again, this is where I think it's heading. Once that happens, we don't need to worry about as much extra things to do to increase our margins to make sure we could still have super healthy margins. But that's, something that will slowly happen as suppliers figure this out as well over, I think, the next year, right? Again, some suppliers already. Okay, so next thing I want to cover is what can you do in the short term if you do notice your margins shrinking? Because again, costs are going up. So few things. The main thing I'll say without going too deep into this is that if you are listening to this right now and you're a member of Dropship Lifestyle, in the bonus section, you have access to basically the previous year's retreat recordings. So we do a live event every year, and in Prague, I gave a talk at the Prague retreat called New Money Machines. Watch that, okay? That goes deep into what I call LVO, or lead value optimization. And it basically covers things like how to upsell, how to cross-sell, how to add referral marketing to your existing business, and basically how to turn a customer that maybe on average is worth $300 of net profit to you into a customer that is now worth $500 plus of net profit to you. Not by just charging them more, but by offering them things they already want and need that will simply allow you to increase your bottom line. Again, for most people that are already up and running and profitable, this is something I would have encouraged you to do anyway a year ago. I mean, I talked about it at the Prague retreat, which was 2.5 years ago. So you should have been doing it, but if you're not doing what I teach for lead value optimization, again, watch my retreat talk from Prague called New Money Machines in the bonus section of the Dropship Blueprint, and implement all of those things, because they're very easy things to do to simply increase your bottom line from basically today. They don't take a lot of time, and they simply make you more money. So those are the main things that I would encourage you to do in regards to inflation. And yeah, one more thing I just made a note on that I think everybody could benefit from. If, let's just say, going back to our example from before with the brown leather chairs, if that specific brown leather chair was your best seller, and now because costs are going up, but your spread, right? We talked about before, the best case scenario hasn't changed yet because the supplier hasn't changed wholesale price. That means MAP hasn't changed too. If that is currently where you are, and let's just say that money is going down to the point where you're not comfortable or you're not happy with the margin you're getting by selling that chair, well, maybe what you want to do now is start finding those other winning products. The way you can do this is by looking through your price sheets from all of the brands you sell for. Look for the ones where the margins are the strongest, right? Maybe where MAP is 2.2x wholesale or 2.5x or 3x, where there's more of a spread. And what you should test at the very least is diverting more of your ad budget, specifically in this case, Google Shopping budget, to the products with that bigger spread, so that when you sell them, the margins are still there without you even having to do anything with lead value optimization that I just talked about. So those are a couple of things, guys, that we are doing, we have been doing, things that can make sure your dropshipping store is healthy, is strong, has very solid margins as we deal with supply chain issues, as we deal with inflation. Those are things that, again, we do, and I encourage you to do to keep your business as profitable as it can be. And, again, in terms of inflation and you eventually having to raise your prices because suppliers raise theirs, I actually see that as a positive sign because we have that bigger spread. And again, it doesn't affect you, it affects everybody. Personally, I wish we didn't have to deal with this, but it's the reality of 2022. And yeah, it's one of those things, right? What we do as business owners is adapt. That is how we win. That is how we build highly profitable, semi-automated stores. So with that being said, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast. As always, I do hope you got value. If you did and you're not subscribed to the podcast yet, be sure to do so. It's on every major podcast player. And if you are new and you want to know how to build a highly profitable, semi-automated store, plus you want a special offer on the Dropship Blueprint, just go to dropshipwebinar.com. I'll link that up in the podcast description as well. So with that being said, thank you, everybody. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you on Thursday for the next episode of the e-commerce lifestyle podcast. See you, everybody. All right, cool. So for everyone here on YouTube now, welcome. Yeah. So if anybody hopped on as I was just going through that, hopefully you got value from that. By the way, if you did, let me know by giving this video a like. I'm not going to keep this up on the YouTube channel or anything, but again, I mentioned this before I started recording that podcast. I was going to record it anyway, so I figured I would do it live. That way, hopefully you can benefit from it by being here. Maybe if you're not aware I have a podcast, now you could be aware, and you can go back and search whatever podcast player you use for e-commerce lifestyle. Again, we got about 300 episodes already that are super valuable. And yeah, so I can also answer some questions if anybody had any while I was going through that. So yeah, for YouTube right now, what I'm going to do is just look, I'll see if any questions came through. I will do my best to answer them. I'll wrap this up. I'll make this video private, and then we'll get the podcast uploaded to the actual audio podcast feed. But let's see. Okay, I see, and I can take this off the screen now since the episode is no longer being recorded. We have Zakaria says, pop that up. What is a good cost per click in your opinion? So that's a hard question to answer because it depends on so many things. Here's what I'll say. When you're first starting, because I don't know, again, if you're talking about like Facebook, if you're talking about Google Shopping, if you're talking about, YouTube, if you're talking about Bing, like there's lots of different places to advertise, and there's lots of different interest levels that you can advertise at. What I'll say is if you're just getting started and you set up your alpha beta campaign, meaning you have a campaign for alpha, a campaign for beta, again, the way I do it, the way I teach it, my advice would be to start with relatively low cost per click for each. So maybe you start, let's say 35% alpha, 35 cents alpha, 35 cents beta. And then what you want to do is let that run, give it about a week when the campaigns first get approved. And what you'll be able to see then is, are you getting impressions? Are you getting clicks? And you'll be able to see where you rank in the order of basically products related to yours. And if you're getting lots of impressions, you're getting a good click-through rate, then you can just leave it as is. But if you see that your budget really isn't spending, your daily budget, whatever that is, then you wanna do what I call inching up, right? So maybe you take that 35 cents after a week and you bump it up to maybe 45 cents. Let that run for another week. See if you start to get more impressions and more clicks. See what impression search share you get. That's, by the way, all available in the Google Ads dashboard. And if it's picking up, right, and you're getting what you want, then great, you can keep the bids where you want, where they are. If you're still not, maybe you go from 45 cents to 55 cents, right? So don't just start high and say, okay, I'll go down over time. My advice is start low. And if you're not getting impressions, you're not getting impression share. Again, Google gives you all this data in the Google Ads dashboard. I show you how to do it all in Module 6 of the blueprint. But if you're not getting that, then you can start inching up those bids to where your money's being spent, you're getting those clicks, your daily budget's being exhausted. And from there, you can make the decision of what you want to do with it, right? Whether you want to increase your CPC more for certain products, whether you want to increase your daily budget more, that's a decision we make based off data. So we start low, go up over time based on data coming into the account. Okay. Let's see. Kevin says, when do you think the supply chain will get back to some form of normality? Kevin, I was saying, I think Q2 of this year. I really think it depends, because this is kind of what I was alluding to, earlier when I recorded that episode, is that with some suppliers, there's really not an issue, right? Like there maybe was, some of them never had an issue, but some suppliers, it's real. So it's hard to give, again, a fixed answer on this. I would say, Q2, Q3 of this year for the suppliers that have been really struggling. But what you're going to see, and what you might see already with certain brands, is that the ones that have really been hit by this, where products, the situation I said earlier, where products weren't in stock and they said, listen, I can't even give you an ETA because we don't know ourselves. What you might be seeing again already happening with them is they finally got that first batch of new product in, but because now they're dealing with 3 to 5 months of basically pre-sales or back orders, those things are gone as soon as they come in. So now it's almost a catch-up game. So I would say with the suppliers that have been really struggling, Q2 to Q3, but with some suppliers, the issues have been resolved or really haven't been there. So I think I'm going to knock on wood here. I want to say worst case for the suppliers that really were hit, probably Q3 to things really normalize with them. Okay, let me see if there's any more questions that came through. Okay, Tammy says, what other ways can I find suppliers? Only finding overseas suppliers, but I'm sure some are available in the States. Yeah, I mean, if the niche you chose is at all popular, then there definitely should be. Easiest way to do it is go to google.com, find your future competitor sites that are dropship friendly, meaning they don't have showrooms, warehouses, retail stores. Look for the brand list they sell for, reach out to those brands. Another easy way to do it is go to tsnn.com. tsnn.com. It's the trade show network. Type in whatever country, and basically you could search for trade shows in any industry, in any part of the world. If you're in the States, which I believe you are, just put in United States, type in your industry. It'll give you a list of trade shows for that industry. Go to those trade shows websites. You can open them in new tabs. Look for the list of exhibitors. These are the companies that will be there showing off their products. Reach out to those brands directly, following the scripts from Module 4, and you should be good to go. Okay. Fernando says, hi, Anton. I heard that suppliers are more likely to work with you if you already have an LLC. So would you say it's best to have one before contacting suppliers? Fernando, that might be true with certain suppliers. At the very least, you need an EIN number, which you don't need an LLC for. If you are serious, this is what I would say. If you're serious and you're 100% in, like you're going to build a store, I would say form the LLC from day one. Or an S corporation or an LLC that you elect to have taxed as an S corp, because it's just going to be cleaner and you don't have to redo your books 3 months into the journey. So, you can get them done for basically nothing, have an LLC formed. And again, if you're serious about this and you're going to do it, it's less messy than to go from a sole prop to a corporation if you just do it from day one. And again, it's super cheap and they're done like really fast. Okay, guys, I think there's one more question, so I'll answer this, then we can wrap this up, and I'll post the audio as an episode on the podcast feed. But Robert says, for seasonal items, which you don't recommend, what is an acceptable dip in interest using Google Trends 0 to 100 interest over time? So I don't, again, Robert, have like a fixed answer for this, but I'll just tell you how I think about it. And hopefully you can use that thought process as you're evaluating this yourself. If you're looking at the trends graph and you see, let's just say December, for example, interest is, let's call it 80, right? Interest is 80 in December. Then the rest of the year, interest is 25. Well, let's use easier numbers. Let's say it's 75 in December and then it's 25 the rest of the year. That would mean to me that you can have this amazing month, but your best, and let's say that best month is 100K in sales. Well, the rest of the year when you're at 25, basically your best month is 35K in sales because the volume's not there. So that's pretty much how I look at it. I want something that I can consistently move year round that not only meets the seasonality criteria, but that of course has the demand, has the suppliers and everything else to be able to support that business. So yeah, it's not like a fixed number. It's more, can I make money year round with it? And again, for the seasonal stores, like I do talk about in the blueprint, doesn't mean you can't do it, doesn't mean you can't make money with it. But for a first store, I would stay away from that so you can build yourself a solid recurring income from your store. And then for store 2, 3, 4, 5, you want to add in a seasonal one, great, you can make extra money, but have your base, the thing that replaces your income, the thing that makes you feel so comfortable and secure, the thing that's a higher valued asset if you ever want to sell that, build that one in that evergreen niche that can be profitable consistently year round, because again, it's just a more valuable business. So guys, I think that was all the questions. Again, if you got value from this quick one, let me know by giving a like, and maybe I'll do more of these live podcast recordings in the future. For now, I'll get this audio posted to the e-commerce lifestyle feed. Again, you could find that on any podcast player you use just by searching for e-commerce lifestyle. You'll see my face, and yeah, you can check it out there. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. And yeah, we will talk again. Have a good week, everybody. See ya.